All right, girls. So go ahead and just find some space on your mat or on your floor. If I step this far away, can y'all hear me okay? Should I put my AirPods in? Thumbs up from Jennifer. Okay, very cool. All right. Don't come out here again. All right. So that was great, wasn't it? All right, so y'all, we're gonna just find some space on our mat. I like to spread my feet apart, maybe about hip width apart. Don't be delusional. You don't have to stand out here. You just want your feet right underneath your actual hip bones. And you want to just kind of dig your heels into the floor, maybe spread your toes out a little bit and create some more space between your toes. And then just roll your shoulders back real big and make a little V in your shoulder blades so that you've got a strong spine here, but you don't necessarily have to be squeezing your core, like real strong set position. You're just kind of neutral here, okay? The hips, imagine they're like a bowl of water. You don't want to have them tilted, tucked under. You don't want to have them pushed to the back. You want to just have them neutral. And your hands are open and comfortable. If this is not comfortable for you and there's something else that is, just do that. Do what's best for you. But right now, we're just trying to spread our toes out, to take some slow, deep breaths, standing in Tadasana, so standing mountain pose. We're inhaling really slowly, maybe dragging it out for 5 or 6 seconds, and then exhaling. Seeing if you can go a little bit longer on the exhale than on the inhale. If it's comfortable for you to close your eyes, please do so. Yes, it's Micah Barker's Spotify. If you're looking up the playlist on Spotify, it should say Sarah Barker Yoga or something on there. So taking just a moment to set our intention for today's practice. I know that it is Saturday, and for some of us, our weeks have gotten a little bit somewhat back to normal. If there are businesses that are opening around us, maybe your gym has opened, maybe you're going back to work, maybe you've been going back to work. So sometimes that can add a little undue stress because we're so not used to that lately. So taking a second to just set your intention for your practice today, or maybe a word of resolve. Maybe you just are saying to yourself, I am here. I'm going to make it to the end of class. But focusing on that, no judgment of ourselves or anybody else. I know that we can see most of each other on the screen, but what's important is what we're doing on our mat. We're just here to connect. We're just here to have community. We're not here to compare ourselves to anybody else. And we don't want to compare ourselves to where we were yesterday or where we might be tomorrow either. So right now, today, this is what it's about today, is you and the mat, what happens today. So let's take a couple of shoulder rolls. You can keep your eyes closed or you can open them, doesn't matter. Just opening those shoulders up and back. Maybe one at a time, maybe taking that neck, rolling it around a little bit. All right, taking our right hand, bringing it all the way up over our head, and let's do some of that dynamic resistance stretching. So we're pressing into that right foot while we lift up with the right hand. So both of that whole side of that body is stretching from top to bottom, and then we're going to switch sides, taking a deep breath in, pressing into that left foot and really extending, like you're opening up space between those ribs. And then do it again on each side, just opening up that body, opening up the side body. And then restoring balance to the body by making sure you get equal amounts on both sides. All right, now both hands are going to come up all the way, taking a deep breath in. Little bend of the lower back, and then exhale. And then one more time, we're going to take a deep breath in, both hands coming up. Little fingers are going to come together, and we're going to open up that heart, lifting to the chest towards the ceiling. And then we're going to take it down into a nice swan dive towards a forward fold. And turn to the side for y'all so I can talk like this. So if you're just waking up, or if this is you know, a new day for you to just try yoga, your lower back may immediately feel tight. Your hamstrings might feel tight. We're going to just bend the knees just a little bit And then we're gonna drop the armpits towards the legs and drop the crown of our head towards the floor. So we're taking our nose towards our knees, and the chin is tucked in towards the chest. Once you tuck that chin into the chest a little bit, you'll feel some of that tension on the back of the neck. Release any wrinkles in the back of the neck, dropping those hands to the floor. If this makes you uncomfortable, you can always come to monkey pose, pressing the hands into the shins. Still a soft bend in the knees though. We're not locking out the knees at any point, but keeping your body level so that you don't get dizzy or that it doesn't put too much pressure on your lower back. We're gonna take a deep breath in and we're gonna lift up to half lift. So really extending through the crown of the head, lifting up, engaging those hamstrings, and then release. And then taking a deep breath in again, coming up half lift, lifting the chest, pulling the shoulders back, bending the knees a lot. We're gonna come up to chair pose. So it's just like a squatting position. Your knees are somewhat close together, but they don't have to be together. Your hands can come back to our prayer pose if you want to, or you can even push your hands on your legs if you're not feeling the arms today. And then reverse swan dive, coming all the way up, deep breath in. And then exhale, swan dive down towards the floor. Inhale, coming up to half lift. Exhale, coming into our chair pose. Inhale all the way up, extended mountain pose. And exhale back down into that forward fold. Let's do it one more time, finding a little flow here. Inhale to half lift. Good. Exhale to chair pose. Hands come out or they stay in. Inhale all the way up. Yes, and exhale down to that forward fold. So from here, give us a little more of the bend in your knees. And if you want, you can wrap your arms around your legs and push your hands into your elbows a little bit, elbows in the hands. And from here, still locking that neck, pushing that chin into the chest, and we're gonna extend the legs a little bit out. So straighten the legs just a little bit and feel that hamstring pull. The crown of the head is pointed down. Maybe shaking that head yes and no to release those upper cervical spines. And then release back into forward fold. If your hands don't touch the floor, that is okay. This is a great place for a block. So you can still get the engagement in those hamstrings without the bending over all the way. And now we're gonna go into gorilla. I want you to just lift up your toes. We're gonna put our hands palm up underneath our feet. Now, if you need to bend your knees to get to this point, that's okay. But we're gonna be standing on our hands. I want your big toe as close to your wrist as you can get it. So you're stretching out those forearms because we're gonna straighten up the legs a little bit. And then I want you to pull up as if you're trying to pull your hands out from underneath your legs. Feel that upper back stretch, some scapular muscular tension right there. So it should feel really good in the upper shoulders and back. And then release back into that forward fold. All right, guys, we're gonna take our hands, we're gonna open them up real big, place them at the top two corners of your mat, and step out, feet back to the back of the mat into downward facing dog. Your tailbone is gonna curl upward, and we're pressing our heels down towards the floor, pressing the hands away from the body, as if you're trying to spread out a tablecloth, hands and feet at the same time. Your head, instead of looking over at me, your head is gonna drop down, preferably below your biceps, but at least even with your biceps. Sinking into the heels, sinking into the palms of the hands, but spreading all the weight into all of the fingers. Last but not least, we've got a small bend in the knees and our chest is pulling towards our feet, towards our legs. So think about bringing your hips pointed upward and feel that hamstring pull. Feels really good today. All right, we're gonna slowly drop those knees to the floor. And we're gonna come into our tabletop position. Pressing those feet flat on the floor, we're gonna slowly round that tailbone up towards the ceiling. Belly button comes down towards the floor, opening up that neck, opening up that Vishuddha chakra. And then slowly rounding the tailbone between the legs, locking your neck, your throat. So your chin is going to come all the way to your chest. It says Vishuddha Bandha, so you're actually locking the throat. And then we're rounding it back up to cow. So inhale on the cow, opening up that throat, lifting the tailbone upward, and then rounding out the back, locking that chin in, Vishuddha Bandha. So do this a couple times on your own, maybe just slowing your own breath down so that you can feel that lower back connecting with your upper back. So once you've done that on equal amounts, both up and down, we're going to take our hip towards our shoulder, going side to side now with the lower back, allowing the upper back to engage as well. So I'm really squeezing that shoulder towards the hip bone. You're breathing here too, inhaling and exhaling. Just like holding my breath, waiting until whoever's going to mow their lawn today starts mowing their lawn, because it's going to happen, y'all. Somebody in my neighborhood every day is mowing their lawn. All right, and so then we're going to go to Caroline's barrel rolls here. So we're going to just take the body and we're going to take the shoulders, go in reverse spirals from the bottom half of your spine. So it's like you're literally disconnecting the upper from the lower. Allow your shoulders to really sink into it, bending your elbows, getting really down into that roll. And then when you've done it maybe 4 or 5 times in that direction, and then let's just switch directions. So we're creating kind of a spiral in the spine, like a DNA strand. And you know what DNA strand, it's kind of twisted, right? So you're really trying to get all of the ranges of motion in your whole spine while you're doing those barrel rolls. They feel really good, right? I mean, they look super sexy. I'm just going to throw that out there, but you really feel good. That's the point. And then we'll go back into our neutral tabletop, and let's get in there 1 or 2 more of the cat-cow combos. So we're going to really round that tailbone up towards the ceiling, really point it upward, and release. Don't forget to lock that throat. And then we'll go back into our neutral spine, tabletop right there. All right, so at this point, we're going to just kind of come and rock forward just a little bit into a nice plank. So it's kind of like a little kneeling plank. And then we're going to push back into our child's pose and start to get a little warmth in that body. So you're going to inhale into that kneeling plank and exhale as you push back to child's pose. Inhale when you come forward and exhale. Maybe you're starting to feel a little warmth in your shoulders. You want to add a little yogi push-up. So it's just kind of like a half chaturanga. So you're coming into a kneeling crocodile. And maybe you're really wanting to get warm quick today. So you can come forward into that full plank, maybe push back into that downward facing dog. And when you come forward again, you can go into that chaturanga, just really warming up the body, however it feels good to you right now. Maybe just do it 1 or 2 more times. And then everyone will meet in child's pose. So go ahead and drop down into child's pose when you're ready. Roll off those wrists a little bit. You can always stack your fists under your forehead, right? So if you don't want to put your hands out for extended child's pose, you can also bring them behind you. When you come into child's pose, this is your resting position. So there may be something we do today that you're not feeling. You don't want to do it or whatever. You can always come here and rest and chill out. All right, guys. Let's come back into that tabletop position. It's like the princess and the pea, y'all. I can literally feel the tiniest of rocks under my yoga mat. Okay, so from this tabletop position, I must not be able to find it. I don't know what's happening. All right, so from this tabletop position, spreading those fingers out real big. We're gonna really brace ourselves into our thread the needle. So we're gonna take one shoulder, doesn't matter which one, you go first. We're gonna just thread that shoulder, thread that needle underneath that arm, dropping your shoulder and your temple or your head onto the floor. You can keep your hips up here, all right? And then this opposite hand can stay here, or it can come up, extending all the way or up to the ceiling, or it can come around, grabbing that inner thigh of the opposite hip and really opening up that needle pose. Stretching into it. So the further you twist, the more you'll feel this in the back of the shoulder that's on the floor. Also, we're breathing whenever we do any kind of twisting pose. Really activate that breath. All right, we're gonna come back around, out of that twist, come out the way you went in, and then swap to the other side. So be facing the other direction. You won't really be able to hear me, so just going in the other side. All right, releasing that twist, coming back in to our tabletop position. Everybody feeling good? Feeling warm? Hopefully. All right, let's take those hands, bring them to the top two corners of our mats, curl our toes under, lift up the tailbone into downward facing dog. Really sinking the armpits towards the toes, really lifting the tailbone, deep breath in. And exhale. On this next inhale, can you bring all that breath into the back body, lifting the chest a little bit, and then lowering the chest to get deeper into that down dog. All right, we're gonna get our core a little warmer now. So we're gonna take our hands, we're gonna reach back and either grab your ankle or the floor in front of your toes and just kind of tap it, getting each side activated, keeping your hips up. So we're not coming out of the down dog. We're just reaching and engaging those obliques. So see if you can kind of push into that frame a little bit. Breath is full here. Since we are moving, we want to make sure we give our body the oxygen that it needs. All right, make sure you restore balance to your body by giving each side equally, if you can remember which side you started on. And then from downward dog, we're gonna take that leg, that right leg first. We're gonna take that right leg, we're gonna lift it up towards the ceiling, pressing into that heel. We're gonna bring the knee towards the chest. Nice crunch with the knee, coming into a plank position if you can, and then pushing it back out to three-legged dog. Inhaling as we come forward, knee comes into the chest. Exhaling as we kick it back. And one more, bringing it into the chest. And then kicking it back. Pushing it back down into our downward facing dog. We're gonna come forward into plank. Drop down chaturanga, or you could be a kneeling plank into your crocodile pose. Crocodile pose is only about a 90-degree bend in the elbows. If you're kneeling, you can come all the way down to the chest, lift up to baby cobra here, or you can push up into our upward facing dog. Knees and thighs are off the floor. Press back into down dog. All right, that right leg, once again, is gonna come up behind us. We're gonna bring it forward into a kneeling crescent lunge. So the knee drops to the floor. Hands are gonna come up into an exalted kneeling crescent lunge. So we're lifting the chest, pulling the shoulders back. Exhale as you come back down. Push back into downward facing dog. This time we're gonna take our left leg, bring it all the way up towards the ceiling. Rotating that ankle a little bit. And then we're gonna bring the knee into the chest. Press it back out, pushing that bottom heel into the floor. Inhale, come forward, tucking that knee in. Exhale, lift up. Inhale, bringing it in. Last one, bring it back to downward dog. Coming forward into that plank. Inhale, exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing dog. Down dog, push back to downward dog. That left leg is going to come forward, dropping that right knee, lifting up, kneeling crescent lunge, exalting the hands, opening up our heart center, opening up our hands for gratitude, and then bringing those hands back down to the floor. All right, we're going to do all of that once more. Come forward to plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale to upward dog. Exhale, breathe out. Right leg is going to come forward. This time you can choose to leave that back knee elevated if you'd like, or you can drop it again. Dropping back to downward facing dog. Inhale to plank. Exhale to crocodile. Inhale to upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Left leg comes forward. Kneeling or balancing crescent lunge. And release back into our downward facing dog. Staying here. Exhale and inhale. Fully expand the lungs. Spreading out our fingers, pressing into our heels. All right, my friends, this time we're going to take that left foot first. Lift it behind us. Pressing into that heel. Bending the knee a little bit. Rotating the ankles. Snap, crackling, and popping your way into better, more lubricated joints here. And then we're going to sweep that left foot all the way to the hands. Anchoring the back foot. Popping up to warrior one. So warrior one. Strong, stable base. Like a warrior. Like the warriors that you are. We're sinking into the heels. The base of our body is pressing into the floor. Hands can be up and open for gratitude if you want. Fingers can be together. You can also come down here and Jali Mudra if you want, okay? Doesn't matter really where your hands are. We're pressing into those legs. Noticing that if you could still see your big toe that probably needs a pedicure as bad as mine, let's just be real. You're gonna cover up that big toe with that front knee, sinking into it. Yes, it feels good, right? So here's something to notice. Your hip bones should be pressing towards that front foot. So if you're still kind of to the side, several things could be happening, but one of the things could be you're just not used to having those hips turning. So you're gonna press into those hips towards the front foot. So remember, your parking lights should point the same direction as your headlights. So everything should be framed in that warrior one. How's that front leg doing? Quad getting a little warmer? Let's take a deep breath in, open it up to warrior two here. Pressing into those heels. Your back foot is still pressing either straight out away from you or a little bit towards the front. So make sure you can't see mine, but make sure your foot is not to the back. It's actually coming to the front. Open up your chest, pull your shoulder blades together like you're squeezing something between your shoulder blades. Your front knee is still working. Your front thigh is probably talking a little bit. It's okay. It's telling you all good things. All right, looking over that front arm a little bit, we're gonna pull the hand upward, reach towards that front, and then sweep it back to reverse warrior. Sinking deeper into that stance, pulling up on the pelvic floor, activating Mula Bandha. So we're really tightening the entire base of the pelvic area. Think about your body sinking lower like a mountain and then reaching higher with that hand. Again, adding that dynamic resistance we saw at the beginning of the class. And then back into warrior two. How's the front leg? All right, let's go ahead and straighten it out. Sweet relief. Always feels good right when you come out of that warrior stance. All right, so now we're gonna go into our triangle pose. So we're gonna push the hips back, kind of a little sassy hip there, and then hinge at the waist, hinge at the hips, and come into our our triangle pose. So the top of my hand is pressing into the inside of my calf so that I can kind of use it to kind of press into that open arm. If you need support, you can push that hand into the shin. If you need even more support, set your block into daddy bear right here, the highest point. You can go to mama bear, which is medium, baby bear all the way down at the bottom. As you listen to your body and you think, okay, can I go a little bit deeper? Take a breath first, and then see if you can sink a little deeper. And take another breath, and see if you can go even deeper. Taking a big breath here, making sure you're focusing on the inner thighs of those legs, sinking the heels deeper into the mat. Beautiful stretch right there in there. Want a little bit more, maybe bringing that arm over the head a little bit. Careful. All right, very nicely done. We're gonna cartwheel that top hand down, bending the front knee, turning the back heel up a little bit. And then we're gonna stay here in this runner's lunge for just a moment. The back knee can be elevated, preferably, but if you want to lower it down, if you need a little support for that back leg, just lower the knee, okay? Otherwise, you can keep it up. And then we're gonna take the arm that's closest to your front foot, so it should be your, I don't even know you now because I'm not doing opposites anymore. We're gonna open that hand up into a reverse triangle. So a reverse angle. So we're opening up the chest towards the opposite, or towards that bent knee. All right, bringing that hand down to the floor, pushing that foot back into downward facing dog. And let's just walk it out for a second. Walk that dog out for a little bit. All right, you guys, we're gonna head to the opposite side. Hands are gonna press down, lifting up on that opposite leg. Hopefully it's the right leg because that's what I'm doing. But it might be different. I'm used to teaching a class in opposites, so I might have messed myself up by doing the actual right leg. We're gonna bring that leg forward. Bending the front knee, popping up to warrior one. So normally I don't have to like flip around because you could see my back in a regular class. But when I say right in a regular class, I always am doing my left. So now I think I've messed myself up by trying to use the correct directions. All right, so we're pressing into that front heel, pushing into that back leg a little bit. Remember the parking lights and the headlights, everything is squared up. Chest is open. We're pressing into that strong, stable base. I want you to imagine that if somebody came and tried to push you over right now, they couldn't. Our breath is full and powerful. We're opening up to warrior two, pulling the shoulder blades together. You guys look so good. Squeezing the shoulder blades together here. Really opening up the chest. Locking in that mula bandha. So it's the pelvic floor, and you're kind of pressing up on it. So you're locking it in. So my yoga mentor, Kelly, when she was teaching me in some of our 200 hours, she would say, it's that feeling when you're in a bathroom stall and someone kicks open the door, that immediate tightening of the pelvic floor. And I'm like, that makes sense. Okay, we got it. So we're going to twist the arm upward on the front. We're going to lean into it. I'm going to open up to reverse warrior. Remember, we're still setting strong here in these legs. We're just light with the upper body. We're opening up those ribs. We're creating space between each rib. Your breath is full in these power poses. Front leg might be doing a little shaking, a little vibration. That's a good thing. It means you're doing it right. Back down into our warrior two, and we're really pushing into that front leg a little bit. And then we're going to come out of that pose, straightening out that front leg, tipping the hips to the back, hinging at the hips and waist, and we're going to come down into our triangle pose, pressing the top of the hand into the leg, so that you can really open up that top shoulder. Beautiful, guys. So good. If you start to feel that shoulder sinking forward, maybe come up a little higher on that leg. You don't have to go all the way to the floor. I would rather you be up here and that arm straight up, the shoulder back, than all the way to the floor and have it sinking down, okay? So really listen to your body here. Support is on that shin, or you can press into that leg with the top of the arm. Good. Deep breaths in here, breathing through the nose and exhaling. Enjoy the way that makes your body feel. Enjoy the stretch in those hamstrings and inner thighs. And then we're going to slowly bring that arm over the head a little more. Bring the bicep to the ear if you can. If it doesn't feel good, don't. Listen to your body. Let it tell you where you need to go today. And then we're going to windmill that arm slowly down, bending that front knee, turning that back heel upward, and then we're going to reverse that stretch. Remember, you can have your knee on the floor here. And then come out of that twist, hands down to the floor, push back into downward facing dog. Walk it out a little bit. And then give yourself a little break. Dropping down into your knees, coming down into child's pose, grabbing your water, get what you need. Rest it out for just a second. All right. All right, girls, we're going to come out of that child's pose. Hands come to the top two corners of the mat. Toes are going to dig down underneath us, pressing into that downward dog. At this point, I want you to just kind of bend your knees and either walk, step, or jump, float, whatever, to your hands. And then we're going to reverse that swan dive all the way up. It's balance time, everybody's favorite. It's my favorite. I love balance poses. Mostly because we don't do it a whole lot as adults, and yet we still try to balance like everything in our lives, and it's chaos. So we want to make sure we really ground ourselves in some balance. So it feels weird to be crooked now. All right, so you're gonna find a place on your mat, and also some people, if you have hardwood floors underneath you or tile, some people find that it's easier to balance on a harder, flatter surface than on your mat. So don't feel like you have to stay on your mat at all. Okay. So we're going to go into tree pose first, as always. Your tree can have a root that sticks you to the ground and allows you to stay balanced. And then you can always bring that foot up the calf a little bit, skipping the knee, coming into the inner thigh if you'd rather, or you can always cross that foot in front of you if you really feel like your knee is your center of gravity there. You can still use that area, just don't put the pressure on the inside of your knee. And then come into that tree pose. So while you're in tree pose, you decide where your hands are going to go. Okay, we can come here to prayer pose at heart center, or you can, maybe it feels better to have your arms out for balance. It doesn't matter where your hands are, but we can always extend them upward if we want. Taking a deep breath in, growing your tree tall. Really lift the heart here. Open that heart up. Receiving that deep breath in, receiving that big heart opener. If you wobble or if you waver or fall over a little bit, that's okay. Just get right back into it. Even trees blow in the breeze, right? So we're always moving. The body is rarely very still. And then we're going to come out of that tree pose and into the other side. Remembering that we are not symmetrical, so one side can sometimes be more able to balance than the other. For me, I noticed that if it's cloudy, which it is today, that I really struggle with balance. So finding a focal point with your eyes, that's an object that's not moving, maybe a line on the floor or a spot on the wall with your eyes. And when your eyes are still, your body is a little more still. Breathing into that pose. All right, coming into that extended tree, opening up the hands if you want. Big breaths here. Oh, I'm getting a little breeze outside. It feels amazing. Probably means I'm about to get wet. And bring it in. Excellent job, guys. All right, so we're going to go into our standing staff pose. We've done this one a couple different times. We've gone back and forth with it. We're going to bring that leg up. Doesn't matter which one first, just whichever one you feel. I like to rotate my ankle first, maybe extend that leg out and out, in and out if you want, just to kind of find your range of motion. And once you've got that range of motion, we're going to set all of our weight into that back leg, just kind of leaning back a little bit. Here's the side view. We're kind of just leaning back a little bit. And we're going to extend that leg out as far as you can get it to go. And maybe, just maybe, you can let go. Pulling that weight into the back heel. And then without putting our foot down, we're going to lower and reverse into warrior three. So we're transitioning into a standing balance pose. The front leg is bent. The back leg is extended straight behind us. And we're reaching forward with those hands. Like you're reaching for all of your friends and family you haven't seen in 9 or 10 weeks. And then bring it back into the standing position. It's fun to go in from one pose to the other. I like that little transition. Going to the opposite side. Rotating that ankle, extending it out, bringing it in, finding that range of motion. Your leg doesn't have to be high here, y'all. You can really get a lot of balance by holding that leg down. I feel like there's a hair on me. So you can keep, I mean, it's all about the balance. It's not necessarily about the height of the leg. But if you are pulling that knee up and into the chest, you want to extend it out, really feeling that hamstring, protect that hamstring. And when you're ready, we're going to hold it. You feel like you want to go for it, go for it. Balancing that standing staff pose. And when you're ready, transitioning into that warrior three. Staying in the balance. If you need to touch down, touch down. Remember that back leg can always be a kickstand for you. And then release. All right, so we are going to do pyramid pose, which is we're going to be bending over, so we're going to be inverted. This is a pose that I really encourage you to have a block or a bolster or some kind of pillow for your hands, and I'll tell you why. When we go into pyramid pose, and it sounds really intense, pyramid for some reason, to me it's not. It's an intense pose for your hips and your hamstrings. But we're going to separate our feet. Can you see my feet? My feet are about maybe 1 foot's width apart from front to back, okay? So make sure you're not in like a warrior pose here. We're coming here. And if you've got a block or a book or something you want to use, we're going to come straight down. And the point, the most important thing is that your hips stay level. So for example, when I come down even further, one of my hips shifts upward and then my hips are not even. So that's why I think it's important to use a block, because then I can really push my weight back into my heels and start to come down and keep the hips even. So pyramid pose, if you don't have a block and you're not using a block, your hands can come down to the floor. So we're stacking all of the weight evenly into both feet. Now we're gently going to rock into the backs of the heels. Notice how that feels in your front leg. And then we're going to rock a little bit into the balls of the feet, shifting the weight a little bit more over the center of the space over here in between your feet. All right, guys. If you want, we're going to put the weight into the hands, bend that front knee, and extend up or out that back leg. Trying to keep the hips even. If you've still got your block right here, you can always use the block. to keep that pose a little bit less intense. And then we're going to lower back down, swapping the feet out. So pushing the opposite foot behind, and then using that block to kind of set your hips up. So again, I want you to think about your favorite beverage being balanced on your tailbone here. And so if your hips go uneven or one shifts upward, you're going to lose that beverage. So we're going to make sure we keep it even. Bending the front knee, putting the weight into the hands, extending that pyramid. All the weight is in that standing leg, really pressing into that pose. And make sure you're breathing. And when you're ready, we're going to bend that knee. We're going to come right back down into the standing position. Hands come to the top two corners of the mat. Let's push back into downward dog. We do it on time. Why does this class always go so fast? There's so many things I want to still do. Oh, pressing into that downward dog. Not enough hours in the day, girls. All right. So let's just go ahead and bend the knees, coming down into a seated position. Okay, any kind of seated, any way you want to get into that seated position. And we're going to go into cow face pose first. So I want you to take your right leg and place it on the floor. Try to bring your knee as close to the front of your body as you can. And I'm going to give you the options first for cow face pose. You can just simply cross that top leg over, and then you're going to have to settle up, like center up. Make sure both butt cheeks are on the floor, okay? Or you can bring it up a little further. Maybe you can still kind of bring this pose a little further. But we're trying to stack those knees, one on top of the other. So it should look like the face of a cow, kind of locked in and squared. And what you should be feeling here is your glutes and your hips kind of questioning what the heck you're doing in this pose. Flex your toes to protect those knees. And we're going to get a little shoulder stretch here. So if you have a sock or a strap or a belt or a necktie or even like a shirt, if you were wearing a shirt earlier and you took it off, just something to hold on to. We're going to take that left hand, or your left hand, and bring that arm straight up over your head, whatever you have in it. And then we're going to bend it like you're going to scratch the middle of your shoulder blades, like right between your shoulder blades. We're going to take the opposite hand. We're going to grab underneath. Okay. And we're going to try to reach for that hand, okay? So, for example, here we are. So you're not just holding the pose, you're actually trying to go a little deeper. So you're allowing those hands to walk towards each other so you can eventually bind them. And when you get to the bind, you can hold it, or you can continue using that strap. Making sure your breath is full here, y'all. Try to release the tension in your shoulders. Just kind of submit to that pose. And release. And then we're going to simply twist towards the top leg. So whatever side you're sitting on, with that leg that's on the top, which if you're going with what I was saying earlier, it should be the left leg on top. We're going to be twisting towards that side, lengthening through the spine like you're trying to stand a little bit taller, and using that leg and that arm as a lever to kind of go a little further. As I've told y'all before, that any torso twisting, any spinal twisting when we're in seated or lying down position is really good for the digestive system. So, you know, if you're off of your normal routine or your normal bathroom schedule for any reason, like travel, or maybe you're not eating right or whatever, some twisting poses are always a great way for you to kind of get things going there, making sure you're breathing the whole time. We're gently massaging those inner organs with this pose, and then we're going to release, and we're going to switch sides. Okay, so those hips, yeah. So what we're doing here, because I know it's my time, is we're trying to get multiple stretches in the same amount of time. So we're combining some really great poses. So taking that opposite side. Now remember, our hips can be uneven, okay? If your hips are uneven, you're gonna notice that you can't maybe go as far in the next pose, or maybe you can go farther on this cow face pose than you could on the other side. But we wanna keep both of the butt cheeks on the floor. So see if you can set up as straight as you can. If you're noticing one butt cheek is elevated, it probably means you need to come out of that pose a little bit so that you can stay squared up, okay? All right, so this is my side that doesn't go very far. We're gonna take that arm, the opposite arm, so that right arm with our strap or our sock or, you know, whatever you got. You might not even need anything. You don't actually have to use a strap here. And we're gonna bring it down towards the middle of our spine, reaching around with that opposite side and holding that strap, or just placing the back of your hand in the middle of your back and then just holding that pose. And maybe walking those hands towards each other. Maybe they touch, maybe they don't. Once you're here, we've got to breathe. So relax into those hips, let those hips open up the chest, lifting the chest. Maybe walk those hands just a little bit closer to each other. And gently release. Now we're going to take a twist. We're going to open up the chest towards the right side of the body, pressing that forearm into the leg, lifting up on that chest. Imagine that your crown of your head is pulling a little higher up to the ceiling. And then slowly we're going to release back to the center, extending those legs, coming out of that pose. Whew. Shaking those legs out a little bit, releasing those hips. All right, we're going to come down into our lying down position. We'll do just a few poses here before we head into our Shavasana. So from your lying down position, we're going to bring the knees into the chest. So however you want to get there. Hands are going to be underneath the knees to protect our knees from being hyperextended there or pressed into. And we're going to kind of just roll that lower back into the floor. Massaging that lower back, massaging all around that erector spinae, those little bundles of muscles that control the lower part of our spine, our lumbar support. So we're going to really just give them a little love here. And then we're going to take our heels, press them down into the floor. Fingertips are down towards our heels. You don't have to touch your heels, but that's where they're pointed. And we're going to activate the core, squeeze the glutes, and lift up into bridge pose. So we're pressing into the shoulders, and we're pressing into the heels. We're taking a deep breath in. And then release. Taking them down to the floor. We're going to do that one more time. This time, binders, if you want to take a bind in this one and grab your fingers and clasp them together underneath your tailbone, it's a great opportunity to do so. So lifting into the hips, pressing the shoulders inside your body, and then clasping your hands together, lifting the hips, squeezing the glutes. Again, we're going to focus on that dynamic resistance, but this time we're going to pull the heels towards the hands. Activating the inner thighs, squeeze the glutes like there's something between your legs that you're squeezing. And then slowly lower it down. Two more things in this pose. We're going to cross one leg into a figure 4 position. I'm going to give you an option. You've got two choices here. Choice number 1, you can just thread the needle and bring that hip up into a figure 4 position. Or option 2, we're going to press into a bridge pose with the figure 4. Okay, so pick your poison and decide which one you want to do, and really open up those hips in that pose. Take a couple of deep breaths there. Good. And then release. All right, swapping sides. Figure 4 on the opposite side as you thread the needle through that leg, or you can come up into bridge pose. Taking a couple of breaths there. Woo, woo, woo. Squeeze your glutes, protect those legs, and release. Ay, ay, ay. All right, we're gonna open up those arms, big like a letter T. We're gonna take those knees over to one side, drop your legs to the floor, and then open up your chest towards the ceiling or the sky, pressing both shoulders into the floor of the mat. And if you want a little bit more, you're gonna extend that top leg. Activating your core by bringing it into the middle, and then we're going to bend the knees, come to the opposite side. Pressing into the back, pressing into the shoulders, opening it up. These are not my dogs, if anybody's wondering. Extending that top leg if you like. And then use the core, rotate back to the center, bending those knees. Let's open things up to dead bug, our favorite. We're going to open up the knees, grab the big toe with your peace sign fingers. Open up into that stretch. Pay careful attention to your tailbone. Make sure your tailbone is still extended down towards the floor and your knees are opening to the side bodies. So a lot of us want to bring our knees towards our body and keep our butt off the floor. You want to make sure you're leveled out. So press that tailbone down, open up those legs into that dead bug pose and really feel the inner thigh stretch. If you want a little more sensation in this pose, you can always take the inner thighs, inner calves, and open up to a straddle split here. Stretching, allowing gravity to press your legs down towards the floor, give you a little more stretch. All right, guys, slowly bringing those knees into the chest. Maybe a little bit more of a rocking motion in the lower back. Or you can take your egg beaters and you can like rotate your knees opposite directions. And I was teaching a class one time. It was actually a hot yoga class. So I had a lot of younger girls in there because, you know, that's a thing now is hot yoga. It's a trend, right? And one of the girls came up to me afterwards and she's like, did you make scrambled eggs? And I was like, no, you know, like egg beaters, like you, like, and I realized suddenly that she probably had never in her entire life seen an actual manual egg beater utensil. So if you don't know what the heck we're doing right now, I apologize. Just move your legs. Just wiggle them around. All right, so we're going to bring those feet down flat to the floor. And then we're going to start getting into our Shavasana pose, which is just a cobra pose. It's the lying down position that we use at the end of a class. So if you guys can get into that comfortable lying down position. And just if you're inside your house and it's a little cool now that we've stopped doing some of those bigger poses, you maybe want to get your blanket or your sweatshirt or some socks on or something. Just get comfortable. That's all I want for you. Maybe a reclining butterfly. If you've got blocks, I'm going to show you guys this pose real quick because it's so good. But having blocks or pillows out on the outside of each of your legs, one on each side. And so I've got my legs like in a this position, and one leg is on each block or pillow, and you're lying down like that. It's a great way to alleviate back pain. Also, if you've got a wall near you or a couch and you want to go into legs up the wall, where your body is looking like a letter L, legs up the wall is probably hands down the most effective back relief pose that you can do in yoga. So you're literally, your tailbone is pressed up against the wall, your legs are just straight up and you're laying down like literally like a letter L up against the wall. So my girls who are struggling with some back pain, that's a really great pose for you to do anytime. So once you get into your comfortable lying down position, or if you feel more comfortable being seated, that's fine, guys. You can be however you want. You can lay down on your side, it doesn't matter. I want you to just start taking some breaths. So deep breaths in. And then we're exhaling. So we're going back to that cleansing breath from the beginning of our practice. So deep breaths in. Come here, but hey, I'm still teaching. They can hear you. Okay, but you gotta be quiet. So we're gonna find ourselves sinking a little bit deeper into the mat, letting your body take up a little bit more space. So imagine that you are on a beach by yourself, no children, no dogs, nobody rinsing off their truck in the driveway next door. You're sinking your body into that sand, creating an imprint of your body. And you may hear distractions, just allow them to pass by. You may think of things you need to do after this, just acknowledge them and send them on their way. I want you to spend the next 2 or 3 minutes just focusing on your breath. So deep in breaths in, coming 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then we're gonna exhale for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And see if you can keep that pace, that slow pace, for just a few moments. All right, girls, just start rolling over onto one side, or maybe if you are already on your side and you want to start making your way to a seated position, just taking your time to do whichever one of those you feel. Breathing deep still, trying to kind of maintain some of that breath you just found. And once you're in that seated position, let's just roll our shoulders back a little bit. I can hear you. And then take a deep breath in, bringing the arms all the way up overhead. Palms to palms, fingertips to fingertips. We're going to bring that thumb to the forehead for just a moment. Take a deep breath here. And then bringing those thumbs to heart center. Taking just one more deep breath here. Appreciating our bodies and thanking our bodies for giving us that hour. And namaste, ladies.